Welcome to another episode of The Angry Lieutenant. And today, I'm going to talk a little bit about fraternization. Now, as you may or may not know, any money that we make from this channel, we will donate it to military and mental health organizations. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and let's talk about fraternization in 1, 2, 3. So, for your perusal, I'm going to go ahead and put the Army Fraternization Regulation down in the notes and probably right down here also. And what I have found is, and what I think is that the Army Fraternization Policy, and I mean as it pertains to having sex with other people in the Army, is woefully outdated. I mean, let's look at how the Army has changed already in the last 21, 22 years since it was last written in 2000, when the Army, G1, in all of its wisdom, its only attempt was to say, hey, just don't do it. Well, since then, the Army's downsized to about 476,000 members in the military. And of that number, about 75,000 plus or minus are females. Now, of course, nowadays, we're not just talking about females, because now we're also talking about the LGBT community. And we're also talking about how females have risen up to the ranks and they now hold all the positions that men have held. So now it isn't a binary situation, but the regulation is pretty much binary. So with that, 16% of the military are female, a number of them are LGBTQ, and we've basically got sex going on all over the board. And the Army policy is still to say, hey, just don't do it. Well, with all of these dating sites out there and all of the technology out there, telling people just don't do it just doesn't work. Because the bottom line is, everybody is banging everybody. And you want to find a lieutenant on a Friday night, all dressed up nice, wearing some nice cologne, having a drink, trying to pick up some tail? You want to know where to go? Go to the NCO club. I mean, basically, the Army regulation allows for serial whoring to go on. What do I mean by that? Well, if I'm a young lieutenant or captain or major or lieutenant colonel or senior NCO, I can go ahead and creep on the down low with this 1E4 in the unit. Then I can go creep around with this E5 or this lieutenant in this other unit. And then I can go and creep around with this E4 in Corps Headquarters, because we know Corps Headquarters has all the finest men and women in it, because all the supervisors go down there and pluck up that POL clerk to be their executive assistant. I wonder why that happens. And what do they all have to do? They all have to keep it on the DL. And with that, it allows serial whoring. So what I would say is, it's probably time to loosen up the fraternization rules. And why is this part one of part two? Because loosening up the fraternization rule, I think, bear with me now, bear with me, is going to help to curb rapes in the military. Watch part two of this series in order for me to pull that weird ass thought together with preventing rapes in the military, or helping to prevent rapes in the military. Let's face it, the only time a soldier gets caught fraternization is when a spouse turns in his or her spouse to the company commander. But guess what? That's not fraternization, that's adultery. So the only time a commander really catches anybody fraternizing is when somebody puts a brick through somebody else's window out there in the parking lot. And you know what's funny about the whole fraternization thing? Is that everybody in the unit knows that those two are banging except for the commander. The bottom line for this policy is that it's time for the U.S. Army and the other services to realize that of all the superpowers in the world, we have the highest percentage of male-female, LGBTQ, transgender members in the military, and they're all banging one another. Fraternization, it's taken out more officers and killed more officer careers than the war on terrorism. Now, I don't know this as a fact, but I think one of the reasons that we had a fraternization rule was to stop soldiers from acting a fool and to stop them from making bad decisions. But what I say is loosen up the fraternization rule, modify the fraternization rule, and then when a soldier makes a bad decision over a piece of tail, let's get them out of the military before they deploy and make bad decisions. I mean, we all know that if you give a junior leader a piece of ass, that sucker's gonna go crazy, man. That's why the fraternization rule is in place. But you know what? The fraternization rule isn't stopping anything. You know, the bottom line is soldiers will adhere to a regulation and support a regulation when a regulation makes sense. And right now, this regulation doesn't make sense. Now I'm going to discuss in part 2 of this, and I'm going to tie this regulation into rapes and assaults in the military and how we're not doing anything to prevent that either. This has been the Angry Lieutenant. Have a great day.